guys, welcome to the Legacy Wealth Show. Back for another episode with my good friend Phil Klima. Phil, awesome to have you here, brother.
Great to be here.
So Phil's been a buddy of mine. I've known Phil, man, since I was getting started, man. We've known each other, right? 5, 6, 7, 8 years, 10 years almost.
Yeah.
And known Phil for a long time. Saw my progression. I remember Phil lived next to my brother-in-law, and would come over for barbecues, and we'd be talking about real estate stuff. And he was buying single family, and I was flipping houses and getting into some multifamily and apartments and all those kinds of things. And always stayed in touch and had some good conversations. Phil comes from the car business. His background's in car business, has a very successful multiple 8-figure car business in the Cleveland area, and also invests in real estate. So, Phil, welcome to the Legacy Wealth Show.
Great to be here. Great to be here.
Cool, man. So, why don't you? Our show's all about making money, keeping money, and then getting your money working for you, right, to make more money and really build wealth. So, I think at the core of making money is really being an entrepreneur, right? And to me, I think you can't really make a lot of money unless you own your own business in some capacity. And obviously you own your own car business. Tell me about how you got into the car business. I know it's somewhat of a family business, and what that's been able to create for you, and then what that transition looked like. Not transition, but as you added and supplemented your income from the car business with your real estate, what does that transition look like?
Yeah, so my dad and I, my father and I started out literally basically out of our house. We didn't even have our own lot to speak of in the beginning. He has a 30-year background, new car dealer side, sold, managed, ran stores, and we started very small. We started with a couple pennies and just grew it. Leased a shop in Cleveland, leased a bigger place, got another place. At one point, I think 15 years ago, we had like 3 different leases going on at once just because we were growing so fast, and we just had more cars than we had room. So it was really fun. Those were fun years, yeah, growing quickly. And then we were fortunate to be able to connect with a couple of the older Ganley stores. It was a big dealer in the Cleveland area. Bought those, and now we're sort of have a good footprint set in Brunswick, which is a suburb of Cleveland. So we've been phenomenally just blessed. Great people over the years. A lot of long-term employees and
how many cars are you moving
customers.
a month?
So we're moving about 175 cars a month now.
Dude, that's no joke.
Yeah,
That is real business.
So the state of Ohio, which is a good strong car state, we're probably in the top 4 or 5 in volume every month as far as used cars.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Good for you. So when did you realize that you wanted to kind of get into real estate a little bit?
So I was always, like everybody says, always the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book experience, right? We always kind of start getting our mind moving. I was rehabbing houses, so I thought that it'd be so smart we were buying nice houses in the suburbs of Cleveland, renovating them, nice finishes, appliances, granite, stainless, the whole thing, and just reselling them. Because I thought that would be a great way, and that's going to build real wealth. I really didn't understand the buy and hold game. So that was my thing. I'm going to do 3 or 4 years.
You're a transactional guy.
Yes.
You're flipping cars. Why
Exactly.
not flip houses?
Right. So I thought that would be great. So we did that for a few years, and it was okay. I just, I found my weekends getting compacted. My wife was yelling at me. We're living at Home Depot and this kind of thing, but it was fun. I learned a lot. It was good for me to sort of learn like what the end user on a nice rehab, what they're looking for, and I think that helps now. To some capacity. With the rentals. But that's how we started.
So how'd you get into the buying and holding then?
So I'm watching some guys and kind of paying attention to what some guys are doing in the single family space, and I'm like, wow, this guy's got 150 rental houses. That's a great goal. If I could get to 100 and I didn't have any debt on them, and if I think I could do that in 3 or 4 or 5 years, that would be great. So that was my start, just literally buying single family, 2-family houses, and we were knocking them down. I had a guy that was sourcing them for me. I would pay him a fee. He did a great job, just tax deed sale, foreclosures, private owner, probate, whatever that looked like. So that's really what we started doing.
I love it, man.
Yeah.
And then so we hung out, had some conversations, stayed connected on some stuff, and touched base not long, early last year or something. Well, first you came out to a couple masterminds, right? That I held locally.
Yes.
Talking with some real estate guys and other entrepreneurs in town, and I feel like that you had some fire inside you from some of those.
when I first connected a couple of those masterminds and just seeing the trajectory of when we first just talked, like you said, at your brother-in-law's part, and just to see how you were doing this, how you were putting this together, laying everything on the table, it just seems a lot more tangible to me. So then we suddenly sort of like pivoted and we said, hey, let's connect with some bankers, let's get our whole mode sort of shifted, and we started with a couple of 6-unit buildings.
Yeah.
We didn't steal them. They weren't great deals. They were just deals, you know.
Did you have those before or after Commercial Empire?
I think we had one before.
One before?
One before, and then we bought one after. Yeah. And I was just, I just had this goofy, made-up story I was telling myself that I wanted to start with a small building before I bought a bigger building. So we bought a 6-unit building, and then we bought, actually our next deal was 31 units, and then 72, and we just closed on about a 50-unit building. So it's been...
It's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Proud of you. Yeah. So how many units do you have in your portfolio right now?
So we're just over 200 with our single-family homes.
What did you do early on that maybe you're like, man, I wish I didn't do that? Or what was a big learning piece that you wish you could tell Phil 2 years ago?
Yeah, so I think I was infatuated with this idea that if I bought a single-family house and I had no debt on it, that was somehow the smart way to do it. To just have a bunch of houses, and my goal was always, if I could get 100 houses and there was no debt, and that would be great cash flow. I understood leverage. I got the concept. I don't know if I was just maybe had some fear, some trepidation, but again, literally plugging in with you, seeing the speed that you were working at, I'm like, hey, I'm not ready to go that big. I'm not going to have a bunch of outside investors at this point. We're kind of going to keep it small, but we can do this, and it's been working out great.
And I think that brings up a really good point, though, because a lot of people, you know, they go out to events where they're like, you know, credit is bad and debt is bad, and it's
Sure.
you know, and there's some people out there like preaching that you should not use debt, and to me, like, that's a good message. I think there's definitely value in not having debt. I'd rather have things that are paid off than not paid off, right? But I feel like those messages are more for people who don't know, who are not very good stewards of capital, right? Who don't know how to manage money, who don't know how to manage debt properly. And I think if you have debt, it's okay to have debt if you're buying at a low enough basis, right, where there's a lot of equity, so you have a lower, even if you're fully leveraged on the acquisition, if you're buying at 50 cents on the dollar, there's still a lot of equity where now you have options, right? And if you're always using debt to buy an asset that produces cash flow, that creates income to cover the operating expenses and to cover the debt service and still put cash in your pocket, I feel like that's very safe debt to put in place.
It's so powerful. In the beginning, I was literally self-managing a portfolio of single-family houses, taking the rent, depositing the rent, talking to the tenants. And now, when we can buy communities that are big enough where I have an on-site manager there, and then I'm able to have the wherewithal, so we've got an office person, so I'm out of that day-to-day. I look back and I don't feel like I wasted my time. I learned a lot. It's good. Cut my teeth, and I have a good feel for it. But yeah, it's night and day.
I love that, man.
Night and day.
I love that.
Yeah.
So you're up to how many units again?
Couple hundred.
200 units
Yep.
or so. Still looking for some other things.
Yeah.
You're going to keep the car business going. Keep on building this on the side, right?
Yeah. So living in Cleveland, you know, and I think Tim said this before, and he's very right. Like, we're in the Midwest. We don't need, you know, there's plenty of money. Our car business is very healthy, and there's plenty of cash flow there. So I'm basically just trying to funnel off as much as I can into the next acquisition. You know,
Love
simple as that. Yeah.
What's your long-term goal over the next, like, let's say 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. So we want to get 200 units total bought this year, which we should, and then we're just going to try to get to 1,000. So we want to get in the next 4 years or so up to 1,000 doors.
Love that.
And then hopefully start doing some syndication type stuff.
Dude, you're going to be amazed at how quickly this stuff compounds.
Yeah.
You'll be amazed. Because if you pick up 200, you're at 250 doors, 300 doors by the end of this year. I mean, you'll be able to pick up another 300 next year, and probably another 300 the year after that. And within 24 months, you're going to hit that. Now, it's powerful stuff. So what would you tell somebody maybe a little bit earlier on. Maybe they're in the single family business. Maybe they're going out collecting rent on their own, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they're the ones taking the cash from the tenant to the bank, depositing in their account. What would you say to help them kind of get past that mental barrier that you can get into apartments, that you can scale up faster? And what would you say to them?
Here, I'm in the first quarter. My dad and I were early on in this, but I can say unequivocally, just from the experience I have in the automobile business, almost 20 years, and I'm dealing with thousands of people every year. It's, as long as you have good people, good staff, it is unequivocally so much easier. I don't want to say cruise control, because that's not an accurate portrayal, but it's so much easier when you have sizable assets that you're operating and managing versus having one house or 5 houses or 10 houses and 1 or 2 people leave, or there's a problem with 1 or 2 people. It's just, it's night and day.
Yeah, I mean, because you have enough revenue, right? And you being a business guy, understand that revenue solves all problems, right? If you have more revenue, then you can cover some of the overhead. You can cover the operating expense. Yep. You have enough revenue coming in where now you can hire somebody to take care of that piece and oversee it and manage it. There's just more meat on the bone. There's just more meat on the bone. And I know you've said that a ton of times when you get into your larger deals, and it's just true. And not only for your staff, but also with your joint venturing, right? Yes. Now all of a sudden there's enough juice in the squeeze where you can bring in outside partners to complement your skill sets. Maybe it's something that you're a little bit weaker at, somebody else is stronger at. Maybe something they're weak at, you can be really strong at. And guess what? There's a big enough pie for everybody to get fed, right?
I love what Phil's saying about surrounding yourself with A players. That has been everything in changing my business. Not only from A players on my team, but also A players that are mentors of mine, joint venture partners of mine, people I can kind of hire from a fractional standpoint or on retainer to come in and help me out with my business. And if you don't have A players, go and find the best CPA in town. Go and find the best fractional CFO in town. Go and find the best bookkeeper in town. Go and find the best operators in town, leasing it. Like, you have to fill up your team with all A players. I went to Spain for almost an entire month in the spring of this year, and I only checked my email once every other day for about an hour. And most of the emails that came through, I could just delete. You know why? Because I have A players on my team, running the operations, running the finance side, taking care of things whether I'm there or not there. That's the power in surrounding yourself with A players. It allows you to stay in your lane, focus on what your unique ability is, and double down on that strength. Instead of trying to get outside of that box and doing draining type of activities, focus on the driver activities in your business.
Man. So tell me a little bit about, like, what was your biggest takeaway? This is kind of a self-interest question. What was your biggest takeaway from Commercial Empire when you came out to that? And you came out, what, about 9, almost 12 months ago?
I think I've been to...
It was October of last year?
A couple of them, yeah.
So you come out
I think the
now.
first one was October, yeah. So I was initially I was really impressed by the way that you assembled your team and how organized and how serious you were about having everybody plugged in your org chart. And then I guess the other obvious thing is how big you were able to scale. And I always left there saying, you know, I know you're extremely smart and you did everything right, but I'm like, if Tim can do this, I can do this, right? So maybe I'm not going to buy 2,000 units this year.
You knew me before I did that,
yes.
right? So you're like, well, I know where he was coming
Yeah.
from, and I know where he is now. Like, he's still the guy I had beers with over at the backyard party, you know, on Memorial Day. Like I know that I can do this too.
Extremely powerful for me. Extremely powerful. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Good stuff, man.
Absolutely.
Well, if you guys need a vehicle, if you guys need a car, call up Phil. No. But you do have some smoking deals on vehicles, so if you guys do need a car, reach out to him. If you guys do want to connect with Phil, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
Yeah, so you can always go to our website, kdkauto.com. My number's over there. Call me, email me. If anybody has any questions, I'm always happy to help too.
Yeah, great dude, big heart, always a giver, and ton of value, man. Dude, I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for everything.
Thank you.
Phil Klima. Until next time, Legacy Wealth Show. Hope this was a ton of value for you guys, and excited to keep on bringing you guys more and more value. If there's anything I can do, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help any way that I can. Thank you, guys.